Hey.
Good to go. 6:30, we'll call the meeting to order. Certified compliance with the open records law?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hagan.
Here.
Councilmember Hooker.
Here.
Councilmember Menke.
Here.
Councilmember Raisler.
Here.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Here.
Councilmember Weisapple.
Here.
All six are present.
Next, we'll have the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Adopted. I now open up the floor for public comments. If there's anybody who would like to speak on an item that's on the agenda or any other item, please feel free to. Just please identify yourself for the record. You're here to listen.
Okay,
Okay, Barbie.
Barb Gibson, I don't talk a lot, but we're here to tell you we're still working on supporting the pool, and if you build it, they will come, and I think it would be an advantage for the city of Durand. That's it, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Barb. Anybody else? No scheduled appearances, but we do have, move on to the consent agenda. The following matters may be acted upon by the city council utilizing a single vote. Individual items which any member wishes to address in greater detail or as a separate item on the regular agenda may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any council member. We have the minutes from the regular city council meeting from April 26th, 2023. Bartender license for Christopher A. Shorter for the Durand Fresh Market. Temporary bartender's license for Matthew L. Gillis, James R.N. Settlemeyer, and Lance R. Bauer for the Durand Fire Relief Fundraiser on May the 20th. Picnic license for the Durand Improvement Group for Durand Fun Fest from June 9th through the 11th, 2023. And street closure request for Fun Fest and for the Fun Fest 4K, or excuse me, 5K. Somebody can make a motion concerning the consent agenda?
So, make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Is approved. Next we move on to the mayor's report. Just a couple of things to talk about. I know that congratulations to the group that did the Civil War thing in the over in by the old courthouse again. It seemed like that I wasn't able to make it this year, but it seems like it's a nice event for the kids. It's a great learning experience, and so for the group that puts that on every year, that's obviously a great thing. I want to mention that I did have a meeting. In fact, it was after Board of Review, and by the way, Board of Review, which we had, of course, and we had the council members Hooker, Hayden, and Weisenbeck sat in on. Met with some folks from the pool, the swim club. Talked a little bit about where we were at as far as you know, we did some changes in some things with that, trying to work with some folks to see about putting this back up for rebid. We have had some follow-up meetings with the city administrator and with Superintendent Gillis, talking about, so basically where we're at right now is we got some information, we're making some contacts and deciding, but at some point, obviously, the council's gonna have to decide to set a new calendar as far as going out for bids, so on and so forth. What we're probably looking at doing on that specific subject is that probably at the next meeting or so, we would sit down and decide how we're gonna move forward. Again, we've received some information from the pool club. We've obviously talked to major donors. We're also talking with the people that either would possibly build a pool, people that would potentially build a bathhouse, and so on and so forth. And we'll have that information. And so we'll be looking at that as a future agenda item. Now, I do know some folks from the swim club are here. Matt is going to have a report during his report, because it's not an agenda, right? It's not concerning where we're at with the pool this year, so everybody in the council knows where we're at. So, okay, that's all I've got. Are there any questions? Hearing none, nothing came off the consent agenda. Administrator's report, Administrator Rasmussen.
Just have a couple things, then we'll weigh in later in the meeting on some other items. I just want to touch or continue on the mayor's discussion of board review. Again, for those of you that weren't there, and for some more new members as well, this is an annual event. Statutorily, we have to have, basically, we open up our books, if you will, to the valuation of all our property with our city assessor, Barrett Brenner, with Chimney Rock Appraisal out of Mondovi. Again, it gets the citizens, one time a year to come in and basically if they feel that their assessments are incorrect or there's some other piece of their property that they don't think is valued properly, for them to come in and basically officially appeal it and go from there. Fortunately, we did not have any of that, and I don't think we had any. Mayor, you said in probably 10 years we've only had one person come in. So that does, I think that it's fair to say that does kudos for Barrett and the work he does, that things are close and things that people are happy with it. Probably one of the major things that came out of this is the second year now where we've dipped below the 90% level of our assessed valuation is now close to almost to 80, just over 81% of equalized, basically the level that the state adjusts all properties to kind of make them comparable throughout the state. What that means is the clock is ticking, that if we have a couple more years of that, essentially we're going to have to go through a citywide revaluation, which essentially means that the assessor has to attempt to get into everyone's home and readjust the values of the property to get them up closer to that 100% mark. It's a big process, it's a big undertaking. It doesn't happen all that often. We haven't had one in, I forget, we talked about it, not since Barrett's been here, well, not even since it's been,
So we haven't had one,
15 plus years, I think.
and not since you've been here, we've been having.
Yeah.
Not after one, yeah.
So again, that's a little bit on the horizon, because frankly, I don't see any way that we're gonna get above that. Basically, market forces would have to kind of stop, and that's really what's driving it. Obviously, values are continuing to go up, and our assessed valuations are just lagging. So, the other side of that is it's a lot of work and it's a little expensive. I put kind of Barrett on the spot and said if he had to do it this year, in today's dollars, it would be almost $40,000 for him and his staff to come in and again, do all that work. So, probably 3-4 years on the horizon. And so that's, again, that's probably the main thing that came out of that meeting. Otherwise, everything else was, some good discussions with him on, how he valued, the valuation of Quick Trip and things of that nature and other comparable projects, including obviously Dollar General. So, but yeah, good discussion.
And as far as that percentage thing, it's, a lot of communities are gonna be dealing with.
Oh,
this.
exactly, yes, exactly.
Yeah, they're in the same, because again, the houses are selling up here,
Yeah.
our values down here, and we still fall out of that window. So a lot of area communities are probably gonna be looking at that, well, at least over the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, talking to Stan, Stan's not here tonight, but Tony Durand is probably going through it in a couple of years. Yeah, we're basically a year or two ahead of us. So again, as Mayor noted, every small community that frankly doesn't have their own assessing department to keep on top of these things and just make those adjustments every year. So again, that was one of the main things for those that attended that came out of that meeting.
Is that something we should think about at budget time this year, is maybe start putting some money away for that?
Well, Mr. Hayden, if we had money to put away, I'd suggest that. So I think when that time comes,
We'll
it may
take
be,
a look at it.
but maybe,
Yeah.
to your point, Don, maybe it segues into the next topic I was going to talk about. Sort of some degree, some folks in the room are probably not following as anxiously as I am on Assembly Bill 245, that the state is looking at the potentiality of increasing shared revenue for basically all municipalities around the state to the tune of about a minimum of about 10%. Some of the estimates I've seen for the city range anywhere from about $65,000 a year to in the governor's budget, which again I don't think is going to fly, was closer to $100,000. But I think it's got to be in that ballpark. A lot of bipartisan support. Things are really trending, I think, in a good direction for us from that standpoint. And for those that haven't read much of that or seen much, basically where they're coming up with this money is they're going to be taking a penny of every 5 cents of the state sales tax. So basically 20% of the revenue from that would be redistributed to the communities within the state, including counties. One other plus for us, there seems to be a lot of talk, and kudos to our representatives, so I've heard this from both, again, bipartisan, again, Senator Smith and Representative Petrick, that clearly smaller municipalities have not kept up on, they've been shortchanged over the years, to be real honest. From the standpoint that when we're allowed to drive our levy limits are solely on new construction, and new construction moving up, some of the larger cities obviously fare better than the smaller communities do. So there is a concerted effort that the smaller communities should get a little more of the share of the pie than the bigger communities. And the final piece on that one that we'll talk a little bit about when we get to Chief Ridgway's report that was here is fair to say that most of this money is going to be targeted towards public safety and core infrastructure, they call it. So public works would fall in that as well. But again, I think it's fair to say that a lot of our pleas and our discussions with these folks and the lobbyists at League of Wisconsin Municipalities for all our concerns, especially on the public safety side, police and fire and ambulance, people are listening finally in Madison. So again, I'm optimistic that we're going to see some good come out of this, and hopefully within this year, next year's budget cycle. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Any questions for the city administrator? And I was going to make one of the points about the board of review, the open book and board that we're required to have every year, and that we have to sit here for the 2 hours. That was probably invented more for 100 years ago, when communication wasn't. Because right now, if we do throughout the year, there's an issue about somebody's valuation. Generally, I think it used to be, just come to the board of review, where now we deal with it right away. So, and I know an incident a few years ago, there was a concern over valuation and how it was being done on a condo up on Country Lane. I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if that was before.
I think it was about the time I got here.
About the
There were a
time
few
you got-
properties up in that area.
But again, what we did was we dealt with those problems before it had to get to board of review. So things are being dealt with, if there are concerns and questions, and we do those. It's just that in this day and age, it more happens that way than just show up to the meeting. You have to do that, so. But anyway, but thanks for everybody who sat through that the other night, so. Again, any other questions for the city administrator? Hearing none, we'll move on to public safety. Police department, you said the chief cannot be here, but he does have written reports. So you got both the call report and so if everybody wants to take a look at that. Just for some of the people in the public thing you mentioned in the report, talking about he had participated in the badge event at Club 10. Also Fun Fest planning is going along. They're doing bike safety at Caddy Woodlawn, coming up here on the 19th. To do that, I guess those are the highlights on it.
Yeah, kind of a bad highlight, if you will. So we did talk about the potentiality for the COPS grant and applying this year. Stan was not able to get the information he needed to make that deadline, and we still haven't heard from anyone there. But as he talks about a little bit, he discusses the state shared revenue piece as well, and the fact that he does want to get a discussion going of clearly on whether or not you folks think there's a need or there's other options regarding, primarily, again, what's driving this is our inability to find any part-time help. And would basically an additional officer basically take care of that issue.
Okay. Okay, April reports. Next, discussion possible action regarding the special event open container application for Fun Fest, June 9th through the 11th, 2023. And of course, that would be from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day. We've sort of been through the process.
Just one piece the chief wanted to note on this, I think in the past, and I think this is, Angie, this is how they filled it out last year as well, but ultimately we decided to go with the 2 a.m. to make it worked fine last year.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the chief asked basically to extend it then from 11 a.m. to bar closing time.
To bar closing, yeah.
We will meet with the bar owner, with the Tavern League again, like we always do before the events, and again, kudos to them for coming. We don't spend a lot of time talking about things, just if there's anything things that come up. But cut crawl event obviously ran very smoothly, and so we appreciate all the help that we get. But again, we just want to make sure that we're not missing anything beforehand. Recall the sign-ups or the petitions are all taken care of just the one time a year, so that's done. So it's just about short, 10-15 minute meeting, Travis, at that. And just to iron out any final details, and we'll have that coming sometime the first week of June.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion concerning the special event container application?
I'll make a motion to approve the special event open container for Fun Fest June 9th through the 11th from 11 a.m. to 2:30 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the application. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Is approved. Next, we move on to the fire department. Chief King?
The month of April, we had 14 calls. I don't have nothing new to report on. We've been busy just preparing for our fundraiser. Calls are listed there.
Has the grass fire
Think of-
danger come down a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All the rain we've had has been good for us.
Any of those fires get too far out of control or too crazy?
The one in Mondovi, the second one in Mondovi, burnt up quite a bit. Nothing major.
Okay. Any questions for the fire department? Hearing none, ambulance?
Just hopefully this is the last month where I have to give this report and we have somebody else here next time. Two things. On the plus side, so we had 37 calls for 911 calls in April, and they made all 37. So kudos on that. I do have to clarify, last meeting I think I noted we had some transfers that were answered. And Angie was too polite to correct me in the meeting, but as I went back, so basically on our timesheets, we had the ambulance, but there were so many calls last month that they kind of spilled over onto the transfers line, and frankly, that's what I was reading. So we had 2 missed transfers last month. I know we've had one this month, so again, we'll continue to work on those. And again, from the standpoint of sign up on the LADTech system, things are looking better to allow for transfers in the future. But clearly, that's something that I'll talk about later in the meeting or at next month's meeting when the representative from the ambulance department will be here.
Any question on ambulance? None?
So,
Oh,
I just had,
Yes.
so there was one missed call?
No missed call. 37 911 calls
sorry,
in the
missed
month of
transfer?
April, and all 37 were answered. 2 missed transfers. 2 requests for transfers, neither one of them were answered.
Okay. Thank you.
any other questions on ambulance? Hearing none, move on to public works utility. Engineers report, Russ?
Yes, good evening. Few project updates. The 2023 12th Ave East project, we did send out the notice of award and contracts to low bidder, Next Level Excavating. That project's commenced to start in conjunction with the Dollar General project sometime around the end of July, beginning of August, maybe sooner, depending on how their construction goes. We just don't want to start the street project until their heavy construction is done, so it doesn't do any damage to the street. So we're waiting for those contracts, bonds, and insurance to come back from Next Level Excavating. Should be getting those within the next week or two. And then, yeah, we'll have a quick pre-construction meeting at City Hall or on site with them in the next month or so on that project. 6th Street East project that's proposed in the budget for 2024. We completed a cost estimate for Matt, so we'll be getting together with him and walk the project, look at the cost estimate, see if we have everything covered, if there's anything that we can reduce from the project cost. The 2024 Madison Street project for construction. Our field survey crew was out 2 weeks ago. Started with the field survey work on that project. They'll be back out later this week, early next week to finish some of the field work. So process on that is once the field survey work's in, then our engineers will start working on the project and creating what we call a base map. So then when we have that base map, we'll walk that entire project with Matt, talk about the design and some of those elements and so forth. And then the summer being moving through design and then scheduling some public information meetings with the businesses on Madison Street. Water filter plant project. We're currently working on a cost estimate for that proposed future project. We've talked to a few specialty contractors, get some input on cost and so forth, so we're in the process of putting some numbers together for that project for budgeting purposes. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions regarding those projects.
And the survey work on Madison Street did not go unnoticed. I had a couple constituents ask me what the heck's going on. I said, future project.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not gonna be tore up this year, but. Gonna do that. Okay, any other questions for the city engineer? Hearing none, move on to Public Works Utilities Report, Superintendent Gillis.
Scott, you turn TV on for me. Right in front of you. Well, that's happening. Just a couple other quick things. Brush cleanup is over with. Sunday night was your last night to get your brush out there. We went around Monday, did the last go around. Probably got about a day and a half wrapped up into that. Pretty typical year for that. Everything went well. Everybody followed the rules pretty well. So that wrapped up. Parks all got open last week. Tarrant Park, Memorial Park, bathrooms, campground, everything is open. Next week we will be starting our fire hydrant flushing program. You'll probably see some ads in the paper this week and next week. We usually do that the month of May into June. It's not something that gets done in a day or two. It takes us a while. We just kind of do that periodically through the rest of our work day. So you'll see water running up and down the streets pretty profusely. So before we call on a water leak, just make sure it's not somebody flushing a fire hydrant. So I like to let everybody know. Plus, it is in the paper. If you have any issues with your water at home, let the cold water run for 5-10 minutes, and it should clear up. Usually in the flushing process, we stir up some rust and debris and stuff that has built up in the mains over the years. So the ash tree program, we have all but 2 signed up from the deadline that was due last Friday. So we have 16 trees that are signed up to be removed of this program. We're just two or three trees short of what we initially had. Upon further review, we do have 2 trees up to the park that do need to come down. So we're gonna just cut those other 2 trees down up there, and the program will start here soon. Friday, I think myself and Timber Ridge, our tree contractor, are gonna go out and mark trees, and he can get addresses to start calling in locates to grinding stumps and things like that. We'll have to contact Excel to work with them on some of these trees that are entangled in power lines. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks too. Last, but one other thing, we will be planning on having some Public Works Committee meetings over the next month or 2 here as we plan for the Madison Street project. A lot of questions that we're going to have to answer on sidewalks, and if they're needed on both sides all the way down, parking, we're going to have to go through questions on that. There's old coal chutes, buildings need to be shored up, and those need to be abandoned. So there's going to be a lot of information, and this isn't just going to be kind of our standard street construction that we're used to, being that we're downtown. So prepare for quite a few Public Works Committee meetings over the next couple months to plan for that. Once Russ gets the base map and we get going, we'll probably get one on the books then to start that process. Last but not least, we got the swimming pool. Last week we did our test run on the pool, filled it up Monday into Tuesday, ran it for about an hour or 2 Tuesday when it got full, shut it off before we went home. We didn't want the pump to cavitate and dry because our auto-filling system can't be ran when the building doesn't have water in it. We did not have all of our plumbing in the building able to turn the water on for that, so we had to manually fill it. everything fired up okay in that first hour. We shut it off, came back the next morning, and we had to add 37,000 gallons of water to fill it back up. So we lost 37,000 gallons of water overnight. We filled it back up. I was able to get the pumps turned on about 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. Went up there every hour on the hour and put about 1,000 gallons in every hour on the hour. You know, give or take 5-10 minutes from on the hour. So we were basically losing about 1,000 gallons an hour while we did the test run. Some pictures that I have here for you. Let's start with. So it's not one leak, right? It's a lot of little issues. So here's the seam between the shallow end and the deep end. That's 3 inches deep and 6 inches wide through this area. So we're losing water through there. These are holes in the wall, kind of under the diving board, where concrete has pitted and chipped out from over the winter. A piece of curb and gutter missing by the front bathhouse. These are what I call the eyelets. This is your recirculation system. There's probably 30 of these around the pool, and half of them look like this. This is just one picture of one of them. So you can see a lot of different areas where we are losing water in the pool. Then we move into the bathhouse. There's a lot of leaks in the bathhouse. This is the heating system. This isn't the furnace itself. This is the old plumbing that pulls the water from the pool pump. The pool pump pushes the water through this system to heat it. You have a cold water in and a hot water out. As you can see, every one of these fittings is dripping water and leaking. Where they're leaking is right in the threaded areas there, which basically tells you that the threads are starting to corrode and rust at any given time.
How old are those pipes? You think?
1980.
Wow, okay.
Again, a butterfly valve doing the same. It's pretty much every joint up and down this furnace wall. Here's some more pictures of them eyelets when we started the pool up. As you can see right here, this is all pea gravel down on the bottom of the pool, and it's lightly spread out through here. Here's kind of a better picture of how it shoots out of the eyelets and spreads out through the pool. Here is a little sand kind of doing the same thing. So I wanted to kind of show these pictures tonight. There's also some butterfly valves off to the right of this where the pool filtration system is. There's about 5 butterfly valves where we can maneuver water through the filters to backwash and in a normal operation. Those butterfly valves are weeping water by 2, and we have probably the size of my pointer finger of water that's just consistently running down to the drain. We've exercised them valves, tried to clean them valves as best we can. It was worse than that when we started. That's what we got it to. Those are about $400 a piece to replace, and there's 5 of them. So that's why we're not just replacing valves to stop that leak. So this is just the above ground leaks that I can see, and there's probably a fair amount of them underground that I can't see. So when I say that we are going through 1,000 gallons an hour, I don't want everybody to think it's a fire hydrant shooting out in one spot. There's 20 or 30 little leaks that accumulate to that total amount of water.
It's weeping away fast.
Yes. So the reason why too this doesn't bubble up in the ground is the entire pool is backfilled with pea gravel. So it's basically just one big giant French drain, and the water just slowly seeps down into the ground. What's not leaking into the storm system or the sewer system. And there is a storm pipe that runs underneath the pool that is in rough shape, so a lot of that water leaks into that storm pipe and then ends up running right out into the swamp. 2 days we started filling this pool on Monday, ran it Wednesday. On Thursday we had water leaking out onto the bike trail down kind of in that corner of 14th Avenue, and the bike trail started leaking out of the ground on the road. So not saying that's all from the pool, but groundwater shifts its way to the swamp. It started leaking out there. So it's a problem. As far as I'm concerned, we are going to try and patch. I'm working with some pool supply companies to get some concrete mortar mix, some underwater high tenth or high strength stuff to patch those holes in that you see around, that we've seen around. Patch this in and patch these in and try and patch that. Patching, now again, as you can see, we've done this in the past right here. That's what this is, right? So that patch doesn't last forever. That's not a patch that's going to get you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more years to run in this pool. That's a patch that's going to get you this year and this year alone. This pool is shot, and this is, in my recommendation, the last year that we should even attempt to open this pool. I do believe that we can try to maintain quality water this year. So we have got all of our furnace parts coming in. One thing that we need to also take into consideration is we talk about not spending $10,000 to dig the deck and do things under the deck. Well, losing this kind of water, you're heating it. So you're spending money heating that water to go down the ground. You're spending chlorine to treat that water to go down the ground. Your acid and stabilizer. So we all know last year we spent about $7,000 in We Energy gas to heat that pool. I would anticipate, we are fixing the furnace, maybe that'll go down a little bit, but I would not anticipate that to be much less than $4,000 or $5,000 again this year, because we're losing that heated water, as well as probably an extra, $1,000 in chemicals that we may have to use because we are losing that water.
What's an acceptable amount of water leakage, do you think? Where do you feel comfortable saying, oh, this is
Well,
much better?
He can explain that for years we've been losing.
Yeah, for years, we've been losing about 10,000 gallons a day out of that pool for years, 10 to 12,000
Yeah.
gallons a day, solely by patching these holes every single year.
Did you ever think about relining it?
So this is a concrete poured in the case pool, so
Yeah.
there is really, from the pool companies that I talk to, there's not a liner that you can just put in this pool to reline it.
Right.
And then understanding that, as Matt said, there's still, we don't know what the level of leak is underneath.
Yeah, and
It's probably at
that
least
would just
half.
maybe fix these holes right here.
Sure.
But all of the plumbing outside the pool, there's two systems of plumbing outside the pool, a pressure system and a gravity system. The pressure system that comes through these eyeballs, and then the gravity system that goes through that curb and gutter back to that surge tank. Those are all leaking as well, so a liner is only gonna basically help patch this hole up, plus they don't make liners for this pool.
Gotcha.
And when we talk about acceptable, when I had met with Matt prior to this meeting, and because you had gave me the number, you thought that if we patched all these things, that we could maybe get it down to $700 or 700 gallons an hour.
Yeah, that's a rough guess estimate.
But the funny thing about it, when I heard that number, I said, I think we could, for what we've been leaking for the years, over the last 15 years anyway, we could probably live with that.
That's not something we can sustain any longer as we move forward.
Yeah, I know, that's my opinion.
And I want to make it blatantly clear that I'm not guaranteeing this pool gets us through the summer. Those leaks blow out on that galvanized plumbing. I said, the furnace is done, right? So, I'm not guaranteeing that we make it through the summer. I'm 1 week at a time with the condition of that plumbing and the condition of this pool. So we are moving forward with scheduling swimming lessons. They are going to be, you'll start seeing information for sign up going out by the end of this week. So we're moving
Beginning
forward.
next.
What's that?
Beginning of next week.
Yeah, beginning of next week, sorry. You'll start seeing information on the first round of swimming lessons, which we're planning for June 12th through the 23rd. It's a 2-week program. So we're just doing sign up and everything we're trying to get through the month of June. And when we get through the month of June, we'll worry about the month of July.
Elizabeth, you have a question?
Yeah, Elizabeth Bauer from the pool. You said that we're losing about 10,000 per day, 10,000 gallons per day?
In years past, we've lost 10,000 gallons a day. Right now, I'm saying we're losing 1,000 gallons an hour, which equals 24,000 gallons a day.
Okay. Is it, do you have to heat the water?
Nope, but unless you want to swim in 50-degree water.
Uh-huh.
Because we can't, the water is cold when it's pumped in there.
Ground-
The only
ground-
way to make it comfortable is we have to heat it, otherwise it would be,
It would be too cold.
it would be too cold.
Groundwater's gonna come into, is coming into that pool at 50, 55 degrees. There would be no way for it to get, solar would not heat it with as much water as we're losing. So
Okay.
you'd be swimming in 50, 55-degree water, nobody's gonna swim in that.
That would be uncomfortable. And,
You might, if you're lucky, get it up to 60, 62, which still is very cold.
but you're thinking that we could patch up some of the leaks?
We're going to put concrete mortar in those leaks to try to get that 1,000 gallons an hour down to 700 gallons an hour.
So is that like, what we're looking at there, any water that goes there, is that just going straight out, or is there like multiple layers of stuff?
No, that's a cored hole right to the outside earth.
Okay.
So when they built this pool, they preformed all these walls like you do, like it did a basement,
Yeah.
and then they came and drilled a 3-inch hole in there to put that 2-inch plumbing around it, and then we had to caulk and mortar the rest of that hole in.
Okay.
So essentially, that's just a hole going straight to the outside of the earth.
That looks like it's been patched a bunch of times.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
It's patched pretty much like that every year. Except for last
Patch
year,
on
we
top of
didn't
patches.
do a lot of patching last year because we were anticipating not having to have this problem this year.
Yeah.
So we did not do a lot of patching last year. So this year, we're gonna end up doing twice as much.
but at the end of the day, the argument is we can still stay within the money we have budgeted, at least at this point.
To the best of my ability at this point.
At this point. And we're also saying that even though we may lose some more chemicals and we may lose the heat, because we're gonna have to heat some more, for what we paid last year, hopefully, that because the burners, some of the burners have been replaced, or, so between the combination, we're probably, hopefully can keep it to about the same amount of money.
Yeah, we're a little bit less with more efficient burners.
With
Like
more
I said,
efficient burners,
last year we
we
burned
get to-
about $7,000. I think with the upgrade that you approved to that furnace, we can keep that maybe at that $5,000 or $6,000 instead of the $7,000. But we're still gonna be, a normal year is about $2,000. So you're triple.
And if we keep everything running through June, we'll have a pretty good idea at the end of June of what the electric bill is, how much water
Where
we're
we're at,
using,
finish up.
you know, the whole thing. Because again, that's the other thing we forget too, the water isn't free to us just because we pump it. We still pay for it, we still pay sewer and, so.
What day are we thinking about opening?
Pool will be open swim, June 1st. It'll be that'll be open at noon for open swim, June 1st. We will not be open for adult morning swim until June 5th.
Okay, and then the lessons will start on the 12th.
Lessons will start on the 12th, yes.
Is there a lot of people that participated in the swimming lessons?
Yes.
That's
Very popular. Very popular.
Does the furnace have a thermostat where it's always going, if it's a certain level it kicks on, or do you guys have to manually turn it on every morning?
No, it's got a computer board in it that we set for like 88 degrees and it kicks on and off as it.
Because it wouldn't be anymore, would it be able to be shut off at night, turned on at first thing in the morning? It would take forever to heat up,
it would
right?
take, so the pool's 225,000 gallons of water, so if we added a whole bunch of 50-degree water, it would take us longer to heat all that extra water than it would be just to keep it going.
And in the morning, I suppose, is when it's coldest.
Yeah, in the
for
morning's
people that
usually
swim in the
when it's
morning.
coldest, so you'd have to have somebody come in there. I mean, if you start open swim at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're gonna want a couple, 2-3 hours for it to even try to catch up. You know, so therefore, somebody would be coming in at, 2 in the morning to turn it on.
Wouldn't save you from shutting it off at 8 o'clock to two. Like,
I don't think it'd save you any money.
When you fired the pool up, Matt, all the pressures were up to where they would be when you normally run the pool?
Yeah, we used the old impeller on the old motor, and we were at that 570 to 580 GPM. We need to maintain 600 or higher, so, and our pressures on the filters, we're at that 10 to 15 PSI where we need them to be, so.
You
all
haven't
that stuff
you haven't
is-
put the new impeller in yet?
should've been putting the new impeller in here today or tomorrow. They're turning the water onto the building. Again, yesterday, we went through the building and turned all the water onto the toilets and urinals and the sinks, and seeing if we have any plumbing issues and other things that we need to correct in the building. They've been working on that in the last couple of days. Also putting the new impeller on. So when we put that new impeller on, I think we'll be above 600 GPM.
With the leaks in the threading, is that, the possibility is there, it could, with the pressures goes higher, it could,
Blow it out.
it could blow it right out.
Correct.
Those pipes don't look good. I'll be surprised if it makes it through the summer.
So again, I get a lot of questions. Well, you're losing 10,000 gallons a day. You should. Well, it's when people see when you say 10,000 gallons or 24,000 gallons, everybody thinks of the fire hydrant out here blowing across the street, right? There's so many little leaks the size of your pinky finger. That's where we're losing. We're losing lots of water through a hole like that. That's just gravity pushing that out. That's not even the filtration system or the pressure. It's just gravity. That's 4 feet, 2.5 feet down on the sidewall, so you got 2.5 feet of water on top of that hole, just pushing the water right out the hole. So, and that's just going right into the pea gravel and right into a French drain. So again, we're gonna try and solve that.
So you guys gotta drain all the water completely out then to patch things?
Yes, which it is completely empty right now. So we pumped water out last Thursday and Friday, and we're working on trying to get some mortar, trying to get some better stuff than what we've been putting in there. Trying to round some of that up here this week. So and then next week we'll be in there patching those holes. But yeah, we have to completely drain it in order to get in there to patch that.
Maybe you get just a little better idea, so last time you had it filled up, I remember we talked about that, I made a note of it when we went home, and when I came in the next day, it was down a good, almost 2 feet, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so basically in a 16-hour span, it was, 2 feet was, 16,000 gallons,
37,000 gallons.
yeah.
And with the patches, hopefully, it's gonna be a little bit less.
Hopefully so.
We hope so.
Yeah. Wonders of Flex Seal.
Yeah. So
Flex seal, I don't know.
Sure, where's that guy?
Like there's nothing in the world.
Flex paste.
Yeah, we've all seen the commercials, it works great.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, or anything else, Matt?
Unless you have any questions for me, that's all I got.
That's a big project.
Yes, it is. Big headache.
Okay. If not, the council will convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985 1C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation,